It can be a strange world out there. And every delicious mystery might just have a nugget of truth. This is Cryptid Nuggets.
Hello and welcome to another episode of... Wow, I almost went into my other podcast intro.
Maybe we should have a crossover
Hello and
someday.
welcome.
Does this count as a crossover because you're on both?
It counts, yeah. The John is that just the... This is very self-centered of me. Is that just the John Stenning podcast universe?
Yeah.
There's been quite a few. Maybe I'll just leave this in. Hello and welcome to another episode of Cryptid Nuggets. I am Jon Stenning. As always, I am joined by Mitch DeAngelis. Hi, Mitch. How are you?
Hey, that's me.
That's me. That's you.
Yeah.
I failed to mention that we are a Beastie Boys Paranormal production. Beastie Boys Paranormal Adventures production.
Yeah. No relation.
Mitch, you're wearing this. No relation. You're wearing the shirt that we got on the the trip that we took to the Cryptozoology Museum in Portland, Maine. Wow, great shirt. I wish I'd gotten one of those myself.
Yeah, well, it was hard. I actually bought a size too small for me at the time because the selection was rather limited. Who would have thought that they wouldn't make Bigfoot shirts in big sizes? But, here we are.
It should be only big. They should be low. They should have plenty of big sizes.
Yeah. The beginning of a long and fruitful friendship.
I still don't think that you think we're friends. I think that you are my friend. I do not think that you think. Wait, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it partly has to do with the fact that like we do work together, and I technically when we work together, I am in charge.
Yeah, you're technically my boss.
At least of the set. Yeah. Technically, I am your boss, but I hope I don't.
No, not
of
by
all
any
the
means.
bosses that I've hated a lot of bosses in my day. I have disdain for any sort of anyone that's trying to tell me what to do. I don't care for it. So bossy me and I don't care for bosses generally. So we were talking about a lot of things before we started recording.
Yeah.
But the first one we were talking about is the semantics. It's just pronounced semantics, right? But I guess if you wanted to have an argument of semantics, you could pronounce it scamantics. But no one pronounces it scamantics.
But like,
right?
why would you even pronounce it scamantics in the first place?
Just for the argument.
But like, I don't know. That's not even worth the argument.
Just to set up the bit.
Because you're just wrong. You're just flat out wrong in that instance.
This is like I tried to do the bit. I tried to do this. This is just like a life bit that I picked up somewhere down the line. I did not come up with this, but it's the patronizing thing that we went over. And it's supposed to be like, I love this bit. I'm actually pretty sure that, I don't want to call him friend of the show, but you and I both know him, Daryl Byrne. He told me this joke. Which is
I'm pretty sure he's told me that joke as well.
Yeah, so like if someone is talking down to you and you were to say to them, please don't patronize me.
Yeah.
And the person that was talking down to you, their response would be, actually, it's pronounced patronizing. And what I was being was condescending. So I think that's a really nice thing. I think that's just a really great joke in general, I guess.
I'm a sucker for that kind of humor, in all honesty. Yeah. So, that makes me laugh every time.
Speaking of humor, have you seen Sasquatch Sunset?
I have not. Is it available anywhere for viewing yet, or is it still doing the festival runs?
I still think it's doing the festival run. I don't really care to talk about it that much because I don't think it's going to be good, but I did see it was like a review for it, or it was another way of like someone was pitching it, and they were like Jesse Eisenberg and Riley Kauf, or however you pronounce their name, unrecognizable in Sunset Sasquatch. Yeah, no shit, they're unrecognizable. They're
really?
wearing makeup.
Next, you're gonna tell me that Chewbacca didn't look a thing like Peter Mayhew or whoever it was.
Yeah, exactly. No, you nailed it. That's so much different than saying like Tom Hardy or Gary Oldman unrecognizable. Like, and those two guys are like these shapeshifter type of actors. Yeah. You don't really, you don't recognize. Wow, that was Tom Hardy. Holy cow, that was Gary Oldman. Yeah, no, it's Jesse Eisenberg in a fucking Bigfoot suit. What are you talking about? Unrecognizable. So stupid. Just like they think, we're all suckers, but they really think we're suckers for that one. I don't know about that. I was watching a lot of Bigfoot videos before we hopped on here. I was on the Bigfoot subreddit.
Oh, yeah?
I was watching videos. A lot of videos of people like, I swear I saw a skunk ape, like in Florida.
Yeah.
I feel like the Venn diagram of Floridian, Bigfoot open-mindedness, cameras, swamp. Like Florida's a perfect place for this type of person.
Oh yeah,
Whenever I see these videos, I'm just like, no, that's an orangutan that escaped from a fucking zoo, or like some maniac had a bonobo or a
who
or
let
gorilla
loose
in their
or something,
backyard.
or got loose from his private
they
zoo.
let loose. Yeah, I never think it's a Bigfoot.
Yeah, well, it's a whole can of worms. But on the subject of Sasquatch Sunset real quick, I just recalled to mind a comment that I read somewhere on YouTube that on the trailer that I thought was really funny. And he said, I don't think this movie's very accurate. The footage is too in focus.
That's great. Yeah. That's a
so
great
credits
comment.
to that guy. I don't remember his name, but he made me laugh for a solid minute after. It reminded me of have you ever seen a Goofy movie from Disney?
Yes, of course.
There's this part where they go fishing and they catch Bigfoot, and Goofy reels him in.
Oh yeah.
And then he's filming him with the camera, and he says, "Could you step back a bit, Mr. Foot? You're out of focus." Such a great comedic line that is even funnier if you're into the whole Bigfoot thing, because all the footage is always so blurry. You can never tell what it is. It's a mess.
Now, Mitch, we were talking about your T-shirt earlier. Do you own a Powerline T-shirt? Powerline, the
unfortunately, I don't, but I probably should, because I'm a big fan of a Goofy movie. I would go so far as to say that it is the best Disney animated movie.
Why would you say that? Why would you say that?
Because it's so good. It's so good.
Okay.
The jokes in it are so good. The message of like the father-son bonding just hits really well. The music is great. Like the songs by Powerline in that movie have no right to be as good as they are. There's no reason for them to be so good.
Now, earlier we mentioned the John Stenning podcasting universe, the JSPU, if you will, and the Hold Up was a podcast that I've done in the past with my friend Justin Cairns. You were on it. And basically what we would do on that show is, talk about nostalgia, essentially. Things that we liked or things that resonated with us from the past and whether or not they were still good.
Yeah.
Now, the Goofy movie strikes this chord for me, something that I loved as a child. I haven't seen it in quite some time. I probably rewatched it, years after it came out. But still, I mean, that movie's going to be, 20, 25 years old, right?
Oh, probably as old as me. Probably almost 30.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So that makes sense. So I watched it when it first came out 30 years ago, 25 years ago. I watched it again maybe 15 years ago. When was the last time you watched it?
Probably like a year ago, in all honesty.
Okay. And you still thought it was good? You still thought
I thought it was great.
All right. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it, and I'm going to follow back up on the next episode of this podcast.
Great. I can't wait to hear you tell me how wrong I am.
No. I mean, I don't want to yuck anyone's yum.
Oh, right? Yeah. No, I hear you.
You're not harming anyone by saying that it's the best Disney animated movie. Listen, I don't even I like Disney. I like Disney as a part. I like going to Disney. I think it's fun. I think Disney adults are kind of weird. I'm not a man with kids, but I don't like put on Mickey ears or anything. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I don't do that. I don't love Disney movies. I don't think they're the best fucking thing since sliced bread. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm actually in the same boat as you. Yeah. There's a handful that I really like. I really like The Lion
Aladdin.
King. Yeah, I really like Aladdin. I really like Mulan, right? I really like a Goofy movie. But, like, a lot of the other ones, I can take them or leave them. Like, I don't really care about, like, a lot of the Disney princess movies. You know, I'm not really the target audience. So, you know, but...
Yeah. Goofy movie is not on the same level as those other ones, though. You know that, right?
No, dude, it's so underrated.
Yeah, but... Okay. I find that it's good. Yeah. I have no problem with it being good. People don't view that in the same regard as they view these other movies.
Yeah,
right,
well,
that are like
well, they should. My point is that they should.
They should. All right. Well, I'm going to go back and watch it, and we'll talk about it next time.
Okay.
Maybe we can watch it together. Maybe we can get Jarvis and Mike, and we'll all watch it together and put out a special episode of the podcast. I know that seems like a lot.
Yeah.
But I like that idea. Maybe we can make it happen.
I mean, it would fit because there is Bigfoot in the movie, so, you know.
Right, there is Bigfoot in the movie.
Yeah.
So speaking of things that are far-fetched and are, you know, maybe hard for actually to come by, this is a show where we don't usually ramble for about 10 minutes at the beginning, even though I had a lot of fun rambling with you.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's good to get it out every now and then.
Yeah, exactly. It's good to get it out. We haven't seen each other in a couple weeks, so I think it was nice just conversation.
Yeah.
But this is a show normally where you're telling me some wild tale. Last time on the show, we were talking about aliens in New Mexico, and we pair up the tale that you tell with a snack at the end of the show. And I don't really know much about what you're gonna tell me. I know the snack that we got was Cape Cod chips.
Yes.
And so I'm thinking that it's Southern New England adjacent.
Oh,
I don't know.
Very much so.
I'm sure we might have even talked about it. My memory is not great. So, what do you have for me today?
All right. Well, I'm glad you asked. So, you know, when a lot of people
Imagine if I didn't ask.
Yeah.
What if I didn't ask? We just talked about...
we just sat here and talked about a bunch of other stuff.
Goofy movie, Jesse Eisenberg again. Yeah.
So when a lot of people think of cryptozoology and cryptids, right, they tend to think of the sort of fantastical and probably in the minds of many people impossible. You know, they think of Bigfoot, they think of the Yeti, they think of the Loch Ness Monster, of Mothman, of the Dover Demon, you know, like all these crazy things. But
you're already talking deep cut. For some people, those are deep cuts. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Some people think about Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster, and that's it.
Exactly. But, you know, there's also a more down-to-earth, or I guess I'm going to use the word mundane, but it's really not, in my opinion, mundane area of cryptozoology that tends to get overlooked when people talk about it. So a big part of cryptozoology is absolutely, you know, hunting down all these reported monsters across the globe, you know. But another key aspect of it is a hunt for extinct animals that could still be alive. And by that, I mean much more recently extinct than an Arctic dinosaur. So, you know, a famous example is the thylacine of Australia, which is also known as the Tasmanian tiger, right? Which, if you've ever seen one, it's got like a weird look. It almost looks like a dog, but it's got like stripes going down its back. It's like a type of marsupial. It was officially declared extinct in 1936 when the last captive specimen died. But sightings and reports of living thylacines, you know, still thriving in Australia, persisted all the way into like the 2000s and even get reported today. So another part of cryptozoology is also investigating reports of known animals that exhibit unknown characteristics, like previously undocumented melanism, which is when, you know, their fur coats are all black, or albinism, when their fur coats are all white, like a white tiger, right? Now, we know white tigers exist, but there's reports of things such as black lions in Africa and Asia, which people claim to have seen but have never been documented. Or in China, there's reports of what's called a Maltese or blue-coated tiger, which is like so if you ever seen like a Maltese cat, right? It's got sort of like that grayish sort of bluish color to it. Tigers get reported with those coats sometimes in China and Southeast Asia, but they're never officially been documented. Yeah. And yet still,
who would be so upset to be like, nah,
you'd be surprised.
Not buying that.
you'd be
I know,
absolutely
so many
surprised how
fucking idiots.
controversial some of this can be, right?
Some
How
idiots.
controversial some of this can be, right?
Right.
Even though it seems so mundane, and yet still, another aspect of cryptozoology is investigating sightings of known animals far from their indigenous and expected current range. So examples might be sightings of jaguars far above their normal range of Mexico and South America, being spotted in the states such as Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. Something that...
That's true. There have been jaguar sightings reported in those 3 states.
Oh, yeah. So that was historically part of the jaguar's range for most of history until those areas got very heavily settled and they got pushed out. But just this year, in the beginning of January, there was released a wild jaguar caught on trail camera in Arizona. Clear as day.
Wow.
Right? So it's currently highly debated if jaguars are making a comeback to the area, or if this lone example of a jaguar happened to just wander far beyond the border of the United States. So, in cryptozoology, there's this concept known as the ABCs.
They really do have to build that. I'm sorry, but they really do have to build that wall. They got to build that wall on the border to keep
to stop the jaguars
out.
Yeah.
They got to stop those jaguars. If only they had built that wall.
Maybe that was the real plan behind it all the time. We just didn't want to admit it.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Maybe the wall's not such a bad idea. Keep all the jaguars out. Okay, all right. I'm sorry. I interrupted you. Please.
No,
continue.
that's good. That's good. So in cryptozoology, there's this concept known as the ABCs, which stands for alien big cats, right? And alien in this sense means foreign, not extraterrestrial.
Gotcha.
Now that would be really cool if there were extraterrestrial felines, but maybe
what is it? Just a cat with like antennas?
Yeah. Yeah, he's got the bubble helmet. Yeah, looking like
Biker mice from Mars.
Yeah.
Type of like cat thing.
Exactly. So these alien big cats, these are sightings and reports of large predator cats that occur in places where they're not normally found, often with strange coat colors and even stranger behavior that doesn't really fit with the norm. So today we're going to stay close to home, and we're going to be looking at some alien big cat reports in our local New England area, specifically in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, in Connecticut, and also in Rhode Island. And
wow,
I might have a personal story to tell related to this subject too.
Oh my God. Okay. All right.
All
okay,
right.
Cool. So yeah, I guess people might not know, but we do live in Rhode Island, right? We mentioned having taken a trip to the museum in Portland, Maine. But we live in southern New England. We both live in Rhode Island. It is the smallest of the 50 states. So it's not there. It's not like saying you live in Arizona, right?
Yeah,
Those
exactly.
States are pretty big, and you can live a far away. We live pretty close, relatively close to each other.
Yeah.
Within an hour, right? Within 45 minutes to an
easily.
hour of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, there are not generally too big of cat. There are bobcats near me, but that's
there
about
are
as
there
big
are
as it gets.
bobcats. We're gonna talk about some of the more notable wild animals here, right? But you touched on something that I want to highlight, which is Rhode Island's pretty small, right? And this whole area is a very densely populated area of the country, New England, right?
Yeah.
What a lot of people probably don't know is that statistically, we're actually the most forested region of the entire continental United States in terms of like density of the land compared to how much woodland there is around here. So
New England is,
yes, all of New England, right? In fact, if you look on maps of like Google Maps and look at like patches of woods, there's like patches of woods that start in Rhode Island and just go all the way up to Maine, and like are just uninterrupted except for like the occasional highway. So even though it's a very suburban, urban type of environment, there's a lot of woods around here, and a lot of people don't really think about that.
Maine is huge too. Maine is huge and like mostly not inhabited.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Yeah,
so as you get further north, it gets even more wild, right? So you mentioned bobcats. In terms of wild animals, right, found around here, the most notable and probably the largest and dangerous is probably the black bear, which, you know, has a healthy
Yep.
population in RI and Mass in Connecticut. But in terms of like wild cats, the only actual wild cat that we have besides feral domestic cats is the bobcat, which is known for it's got those big ears, it's got, you know, that short stature, that stubby little tail, you know, and they're kind of small for a predatory cat.
Yeah,
They
sure.
average between like 2 to 3 feet in length at most, from nose to tail, and they usually weigh between like 15 to 45 pounds. And they tend to stick to prey that is closer to their size than instead attacking larger animals, right? They usually hunt things like rabbits. They attack small livestock such as chickens. They might attack small dogs or domestic cats, you know, a variety of rodents. Very, very rarely they've been known to attack small deer, though they usually leave larger animals like pigs and sheep and horses and things like that alone. So, knowing all of this, Cape Cod, have you ever been, John?
Yes, I've ridden my bike around the entire Cape of the Cod, all 170 miles or whatever. I rode around the whole entire thing on my bicycle. But I have not spent, the only other time I've spent there, Mitch, technically the movie that we were in together, the short film directed and written by Jimmy Martin.
Yep, that's true. That
Technically,
was in Cape
on
Cod.
Cape Cod?
It was
Right
actually
near the Bourne Bridge, right at the beginning of the Cape.
Yep.
For people that don't know, the Cape, a cape is like a long peninsula. It's a peninsula off the eastern edge of Massachusetts. It goes into the Atlantic Ocean, and it's shaped like a little witch's finger.
Yeah, a little
It's got
bit,
a big
right?
old hook. Got a big old hook to the end of it. And it's a lot of beach towns and beach houses and kind of like rich vacation homes for the most part.
Yep.
I have not spent too much time out there. How about yourself?
I've been only really a handful of times. When I was younger, an aunt of mine had a timeshare on one of the beach properties over there, and we used to go there during the summers to go quahogging, which if you're not from Rhode Island, right? If you're not from Rhode Island, a quahog, also known...
Just a clam.
Yeah, it's really just a clam.
A fucking clam.
Right? But,
Just a fucking
you know,
clam.
It's,
Yep.
it's sort of
We
like
got
a
our own
Rhode
name for
Island,
it.
Massachusetts sort of thing, where you go into the beach and dig through the sand, dig them up, right? You can do a lot of things with them. You can make our infamous clam chowders with them, clam cakes. You know, you can
Stuffies.
stuffed quahogs are delicious, right?
Yep.
So now, have you ever heard of a town called Truro, Truro, in Cape Cod? When you were riding
have.
through your town, you have.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I rode through it.
Really? Okay. So
I rode through the whole thing. I mean,
Yeah. So this
really
is
did,
the
yeah.
town where our initial story here is set, right? So you've been to
Okay.
this location.
I've been to this town.
So this takes place in 1982. So in 1982, in this town of Truro, which at the time, I don't know what it's like today, but at the time, it was sort of like a livestock town. There was a lot of
Okay.
ranching and animals there and stuff like that. There was a series of these livestock slayings that were perpetuated by an unknown creature. The official explanation is that the maulings were done by packs of wild dogs, although the attacks themselves seemed very unusual for a wild dog to commit, right? Dogs do not really possess sharp claws, and they do not really attack with their paws when they attack things. You know, instead, a dog attack usually involves a bite to the neck or some other vulnerable artery in the flank or underbelly of an animal, right? So the livestock slain in Truro were not that. Their bodies were basically like shredded and mauled by what appeared to be large and sharp claws. It essentially resembled the attacks of a large cat rather than a dog. And the entire scenario of this event is probably best summarized in a 1982 article from the New York Times titled Beast of Truro, Mystifying Cape Cod. And I'm going to read you the article because I think they put it into better words than I could. So it begins, who or what is the Beast of Truro? Is it a mountain lion preying on local pets and livestock? A pack or pack of dogs, an ocelot, a lynx, a wild cat, or some yet unidentified creature? The purported beast, Cape Cod's answer to Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster, has been a major topic of conversation in news articles since last fall. The first evidence that some unknown predator was loose came when a dozen dead cats were found in the same area in Truro in September. A dozen. So whatever this thing
funny.
is.
I don't know why. It's so funny. Like a term that's normally associated with baked goods.
Yeah.
Being used in reference to
slaughtered
dead
animals.
cats.
Yeah, slaughtered somebody's poor pets.
A pile of dead cats.
A baker's
Let's call them
dozen. A baker's dozen of dead cats, if you will. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, a 175-pound hog was so badly mauled, its flanks ripped by deep claw marks and a chunk of flesh ripped out of its neck, that it had to be killed. A few days later, 2 pigs were clawed in their pens in another part of town. Initially, the culprit was thought to have been a dog or a pack of wild dogs on the loose. Then people started reporting seeing a large furry creature that they did not recognize, and others heard strange noises in the night. The most dramatic descriptions came from William and Marcia Medeiros of Truro. They said they were taking a walk about 3 months ago on the bike path near head of the Meadow Beach in Truro when the animal appeared 50 feet in front of them with a definite long rope-like tail. Mrs. Medeiros continued, "My husband put his arm out to stop me and said, 'Do you see what I see?' Together we said, 'It's not a fox.' It had a very definite long rope-like tail like the letter J. It hit the ground.
Like the Cape.
Yeah, it hit the ground.
It's got a
and went
tail
up.
like the Cape.
Yeah, exactly. Curved, just like that, right? We figured it was about as tall as up to our knees and weighed between 60 or 80 pounds. So definitely bigger than a bobcat. We were frightened and froze. He was in the path and didn't see us at first. As we made some noise, he turned and we saw his face with short ears. So not the big fluffy ears you might see on a bobcat or a lynx. Very short ears. Mr. Medeiros left the path to get a branch to protect them. The creature did not rush for cover, Mrs. Medeiros said, but just kind of walked slowly and casually along the path in front of them before disappearing into the nearby woods. The Medeiroses are sure that they saw a mountain lion. What we saw fits that description, said Mrs. Medeiros. At first, the couple were reluctant to report what they had seen. Who would believe it? Mr. Oswald and seashore officers have made efforts to identify the culprit by its track near the pig pens, but in the sandy soil, they could find no clear impressions. So whatever this thing was, it wasn't leaving very identifiable tracks. Mr. Oswald said the general consensus is that the beast is a dog or dogs, but I don't know if you can put together that with what happened. Could it be a mountain lion? That seems far out, but it's not impossible, he replied. Records on mountain lions. The mountain lion, also known as a cougar or panther, is said to be the largest cat in North America. Males can be 6 feet long with a 3-foot-long tail, an overall length of more than 9 feet, and weigh more than 200 pounds. Reports indicate that the last known mountain lion in Massachusetts was killed in 1858, so they're no longer around here. Now, experts believe the eastern mountain lion, which is the type that lived around here, is extinct. Mm-hmm. So Truro is seen as an unlikely but not impossible habitat for a wild creature such as a mountain lion. 70% of the town is undeveloped land, part of the Cape Cod National Seashore. Packs of wild dogs occasionally kill deer in the woods. There's enough small game and domestic pets for a wild animal to subsist on. Donald Roddenhaven of Wellfleet, who formerly worked at the Bronx and Staten Island zoos in New York and is familiar with the habits of wild animals, says the mode of attack more suggests a cat than a dog. Dogs do not slash like a cat, he said. Mr. Roddenhaven said he believes the so-called Beast of Truro may be a mountain lion, an ocelot, or a lynx that may have escaped or was left behind by a summer camper. That part I questioned. Why would a camper have a mountain lion within?
What the hell?
He also said that both mountain lions and ocelots are for sale. So, I'm sure.
Where? You mean just
yeah
in the United States?
Can I walk into like Pet Supply Plus and buy a mountain lion? Like
No.
where? Yeah.
No.
So the official view in Truro holds that the attacks on the pigs were by a dog or dogs. Right. That's the official story. Thomas
It
Kane,
wasn't a dog.
Truro's assistant town clerk, said, "I think it's a figment of the imagination." People,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, people I know whose opinions I respect, I think the damage was done by dogs. At one point, there was talk that the beast was a fisher, and we'll talk about fisher cats in a second. Finally,
yes.
it got so ridiculous that I just ignored it, which I think is just such a New England mentality.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Others, however, expect the beast to strike again. So that's the end of the article. So what are your initial thoughts on something like this?
Yeah, it's a mountain lion. Humans they think they're so fucking smart. You think we know where all the things are? We don't know where all the things are. We don't. Get off your high horse, humans. Stop pretending like you've documented every little thing and you know everything. It's a fucking mountain lion. They're still around. There's just not many of them, so you don't see them a lot.
Yeah.
That's what I think. There have been pictures on trail cams of mountain lions in Rhode Island. I know you said you might have some stories from Rhode Island, but like within the past 10 years in the new prevalence of like trail cams, right? I have a trail cam in my backyard. I'm hoping to capture a mountain lion on it because I know, especially where I live in the southern part of the state, but north of the beach. Basically, I live in the middle of nowhere. I'm surrounded by woods. There's way more woods around me than there is, in some of the northern parts of the state. And even somewhere like the Cape, it might be a beachy community, but like you said, there are patches of woods and animals are smart, right?
Yeah.
Like they're especially the ones that survive.
Exactly.
Like they know what to avoid. They know how to be safe. Their lineage, their like the mountain lions of their past. That's what I'm choosing to believe, that it is a mountain lion. Why ocelot? What the fuck? Where are those from? Those are not.
Those
like,
are
around
not
here.
native to, as far as I know. Those
No.
are a South American, Central American animal.
So that would have to be right. That would have to be an imported pet.
Yeah.
Something imported, like fell off a shipping container. Whatever. But like an animal that used to be around here, and like could still be around here. Sure. Why is it not? Oh, and it's not they don't think it's a bobcat because of the long tail, right? So it's gonna be something with a long tail.
Exactly. Right? So it mentioned the long rope-like tail that is like a J. And if you look at pictures of cougars, and if you look at pictures of, even like leopards and cheetahs, they all, even lions, they all have sort of a tail like that,
Big
right?
pronounced tail. Big pronounced tail, like a cat, like even a domestic cat would sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. Every once in a while, a domestic cat might have a tail like that. But even then, their tails tend to be a little more bushy, right? And also,
true.
Right? Depends on the breed. And dogs, right, don't have a tail like that. They tend to have a thicker, bushier tail. Same thing with like a wolf, right? So
yeah, a cat's tail isn't necessarily, and I'm gonna pronounce the word wrong. Prehensile? What the fuck is it?
yeah,
that apes
prehensile.
have?
Prehensile. A
It is
prehensile tail is
Okay.
like what some monkeys
That can like
have.
actually.
Yeah.
Right, it can actually grab on.
Yeah.
I feel like a cat's tail sort of has those qualities to it, especially a larger cat, right? Like cheetahs use their tails for balance when they're turning at fast speeds. Right?
Yeah.
It uses that as a counterbalance so it doesn't fall over it when it's doing a sharp left-hand turn at 70 miles an hour.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So,
in fact, I think I think leopards and cougars use their tails as balancing
As
for
a
when they're climbing
counterbalance.
things, right? So
Yep, absolutely. So there is a little bit of more character to a big cat's tail than a dog's tail, right? Dog's tail is kind of just fucking there.
yeah,
Right. It's
exactly.
wagging,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the article mentioned the fisher cat, which is another creature that's native to around here, and other
Small,
people.
though. They're small.
Yeah, I was gonna say other people might not really know what that is, so I figured we'd just clarify real quick. A fisher cat is sort of it's a weasel, so it's related to
weasel.
things. Yeah, it's big, but big relatively. Like, it's related to, like, a wolverine and to things like ferrets and stuff like that. They tend to have sort of like a squat body, and, you know, they're a little more spread out with the way they walk, and they have like a bushy kind of long tail. It's not very rope-like. It's similar to maybe a dog's. So
I think a ferret is the best. It's a bigger, more intense, mangier looking ferret. I've seen them in the wild. I've seen them run across trails. I've seen them run up trees so fast, and I've heard them. They sound like screaming children in the middle of the woods. They are wild to hear, especially during like mating season.
Oh, I believe it.
They yell, like high pitched yelling. It's pretty wild, but it's very distinct. And you know, unless you think maybe there's like a cult out in the woods behind your house or wherever you are, you know that it's a fisher cat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not that big. I think the ones that I've seen have probably been like 3 feet long from nose to tail. You know what I mean? Maybe 4 feet long. And I mean, this the animal that you're describing seems to be walking a lot taller on its 4 legs. A fisher cat is short. It's got short little legs like my dog. Like
it's a little stumpy creature.
Like a ferret. Yeah, it's a stumpy creature like a ferret. Yeah, badger of sorts. Yeah.
So what if I told you now that Cape Cod in particular has had a history in the past of some strange feline-esque unknown creature attacking towns and killing livestock, and this is not just something that happened in 1982, right? Because in 1869, we mentioned the town of Wellsfleet, which is nearby in the article. In 1869, there was a mysterious large 4-legged predator that was leaving strange tracks that was attacking the livestock in the town of Wellsfleet. And the newspaper articles at the time referred to it as the Wellsfleet hyena, although they probably don't mean literal hyena. It was probably more like just to sensationalize the story, because that was the era of like really sensationalist news. So
we don't do that anymore.
No, our news is completely and totally honest. You know, but even as far back as 1869, there were reports of these large predator unknown things. It wasn't a dog, it was something else. It was coming in, it was mauling and killing livestock, and they assembled a posse to go hunt for it. And of course, the local newspapers all thought it was a fucking joke. There's no hyenas around Wellsfleet, right? Classic. Right. You know, but fast forward to the modern day now, or relatively modern. 1997, in the Quabbin Reservation of New Salem in Massachusetts, large scat.
I've been there too.
You've been there?
I've been there too.
You better be careful. You better be careful around here, because large scat was found in that reservation in 1997 that was genetically examined to have belonged to a mountain lion, meaning that one was in the area. And in 2011, in the same area, tracks were photographed and identified by experts to be the tracks of a mountain lion. So they're in the area.
Quabbin Reservoir. The Quabbin Reservoir is huge. It's in the middle of the state. New Salem is a town on the northwest corner of the Quabbin Reservoir. It's a middle of nowhere town. You know, no offense to the people that live there, people that are from there, but you know, it's a very rural town. I went to a general store there. Of course, I was riding my bike like I always am.
Yep.
But the Quabbin Reservoir is a protected land, and it is a huge body of water, right? So you know, you could any sort of big cat could do its hunting right in the water if it wanted to, or any of the streams that lead to it.
Oh yeah.
But it's also like protected by the government, so there's just like there's
there's no hunting allowed.
It's very dense. There's all these old carriage roads from 100 120 years ago that people don't like drive their cars on anymore, you know. It's very much out there, you know, for as far as New England is concerned, at least. Right?
So Massachusetts is not the only area around here with reports of these large unknown felines that attack livestock. So in 1939, in Glastonbury, Connecticut, There's a large unknown feline that was sighted many times, heard emitting loud screaming cries during both the day and night, and committed numerous attacks on livestock. The mystery beast became a massive sensation throughout the area, where posses of like armed volunteers gathered together to hunt it and pursue it. And, to add to the sensationalism, newspapers at the time combined the name of Glastonbury and the term wacky to coin the creature the name Glawackus, which sounds super corny, right?
Yes, it does.
But the animal itself, I would say, is not very corny. In fact, it actually sounds quite scary. The animal was described as resembling that of a large mountain lion, possibly with a longer snout more reminiscent of a bear, but it had the shape of a mountain lion. So maybe that was a genetic deformity or some other thing, or maybe it was some yet unknown creature. Unusually, instead of the tawny color that a mountain lion has, that like sort of yellowy, sort of brownish color, the Glawackus was described as having a solid black coat. Now, there has never been an officially documented case of a black mountain lion. There's a popular conception of a black panther, right? Referring to the American mountain lion. But according to zoology, that animal, there is no such thing as a black panther in North America. Melanism, which produces a black coat, can be found in some of the mountain lion's distant relatives that greatly resemble it, such as leopards in Africa and jaguars in Central America. There are black jaguars and there are black leopards documented. You can even see some in zoos. It's actually not too uncommon. So sightings of the Glawackus, right, after it, very similar to the Beast of Truro and to the Wellesley hyena, murdered a bunch of livestock, hunted by an armed posse. Eventually, it died down in the 1940s. The creature left the area. Reports of a similar creature resurfaced 26 years later in 1966 in the town of Granbury. And again, there's this large predatory cat-like creature with this snout that's kind of like a cross between a dog or a bear's, but not nearly as long. It's just more pronounced than like your typical cat. It had a black coat. It had the stereotypical J-shaped tail. It left these strange paw prints. It emitted all these piercing, screaming cries. It had this violent temperament. It was mauling livestock and pets like viciously as if it had an axe to grind. And much like the original Glawackus, it was cited by multiple witnesses. And then still, that creature later disappeared and no one ever caught it, captured it, photographed it. It was just all sightings. However, in June 11th, 2011, along a Connecticut highway near Greenwich, a mountain lion was struck and killed by a commuter. Genetic testing confirmed that the creature was a mountain lion from the Black Hills area of South Dakota and had made a 1,500-mile arduous journey across the country.
Wow. How did they know it was from South Dakota? It had an accent?
Yeah. So I think the way they were able to tell is because
maybe they were tagged. It was tagged or something.
It might be, but also I think they were able to tell because different like subpopulations of animals might exhibit like certain traits that are only found among that subpopulation.
It's like a subspecies or something.
Yeah. Right, like a subspecies of a subspecies or something. But they would determine that it was from the Black Hills area of South Dakota. So, going to Rhode Island, I have a bit of a story for you. It's my story personally. So, this is 2008. I'm in 8th grade. I go to Birchwood Middle School. It's right in North Providence, Rhode Island. To just kind of describe what the building looks like, it's sort of like an L-shaped sort of thing, where on like on the part of the L that goes this way is like the lower level grades, like all 6th grade, and then on the part that would go up is like the 7th, 8th grade area, right? And I'm in biology class, and looking out the window, there's a great view of the schoolyard. And in the schoolyard, there's this like big oak tree that's just in the middle of the field. And we have a sub that day. It was a long-term sub. So we're just kind of like waiting around, doing some biology work, and one of the kids in my class is just staring out the window the entire time. The sub asks him, "What's up?" And he says, "There's like an opossum out there." And
An opossum.
he was a bit of an earhead. So
Okay.
So we go and look out the window, and there is next to this tree, and I could kind of estimate the height a little bit because, I had been near this tree. I could see how high up the tree was. It looked like it was sitting, sort of like how a cat would sit, right? With its paws out like that, and it was sitting, and it looked maybe like it was probably like 3 feet high, 3 to 3.5 feet high, solid black. And we were just looking at it, and there was the argument of, that's not a fucking opossum. What are you talking about, right?
Yeah.
Right, and we watched this thing for like a couple of minutes, and I brought something for show and tell, and I'll be right back.
What?
I brought something for show and tell, so stay right there.
Okay. All right. This is wild. Mitch is walking away. He's getting something. What the hell, Mitch? Mitch if you're just listening to this podcast, you should be watching it. Mitch just grabbed a statue of a Black Panther.
So, my parents have had this statue for ages. I've seen this all my life, right? This is a statue of basically a Black Panther, right? And now,
yes,
I shit you not, looking at this thing near that tree, it looked just like this fucking statue. Like the pose and everything.
This is a wild. This is hold on. This thing has been in your house for years and years, like since before 2008.
Before I was born, they've had this. This thing is probably from like the early 80s. But I've been seeing this all my life.
Could have its.
So
yeah, right.
So I shit you not, it looked exact it's old now, so it's a little beat up, but like I shit you not, it looked exactly like this.
I love it.
Right?
It looks great to me. I love it. It is a 2.5, 3 foot tall, big black cat sitting on its hindquarters, like with its front legs straight, and it's yawning or it's growling. It's amazing.
Yeah. So, it looked exactly like that thing. And then, so we're standing there looking at it. We must have been looking at it for like 20 minutes or so, right? Basically took up the entire cat. And then in the 6th grade area, meanwhile, that's where also like art class, like the art room was. The art class decided it was a nice day. And, well, actually, first we called the principal. First we called the principal to come to the biology class to look out the window because there was a big unknown animal in the schoolyard that looked like it could be dangerous, right? So even he's there.
Yeah.
And the art class decides it's a nice day. We're going to go do art outside. So they open the door and start walking towards this thing, right? And that's when the principal is like, I gotta take action. So he bursts out the emergency exit, right? He starts yelling at the art teacher. He's like, don't go. There's something near the tree. And, all this commotion starts happening. And as soon as he does that, that's when it gets up. And it just very casually starts walking away. And I'll never forget the sight. It had 100% that very distinct, long, rope-like J-shaped tail, right? And more impressive to me than anything else was, it was very sleek, but more impressive than anything else was, if you've ever seen footage of mountain lions and leopards and cheetahs, like the way they walk, where like their shoulder blades go up and down as they walk, and you can see them move. It moved exactly like that. It from the side profile.
That's wild, dude.
It wasn't a dog. It wasn't.
Let's call some of your friends up right now. We'll get them to tell us about this too. I love this.
It wasn't a Fisher cat, right? It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't any of those things. The only way I could fucking describe it of what I saw was it was either the biggest black domestic cat I've ever fucking seen, or it was a fucking Black Panther. And it just walked off into the nearby woods, right? And so
Wild.
yeah, there have been only a few things in my life that I've experienced that I genuinely just can't explain. That's one of them, right? As far as like, I have no idea what that actually was that I saw, but it fucking
It was
looked.
a mountain lion.
It
had
looked
to
like
have been,
it
right?
looked like a fucking black mountain lion. It looked like the fucking
it had to
statue I
be.
have. In North Providence, right, the high school mascot for our fucking school is a cougar.
Yeah, the mascot.
Right? The North Providence
Okay,
Cougars,
yeah.
right? So when
Gotcha.
every day when you would walk into the high school, one of the first things that you would see in like a display case is actually a taxidermied cougar. And even in high school, I would walk by that thing and look at it. and I would be like,
that's the thing.
that's like almost exactly what was in the yard that day. Except what I saw
wild.
was solid black. Right? So you know, I've ran into some people who are in that class again throughout my life in high school or in college, and I brought it up to them. Some people don't remember it at all. However, the people who do, we're all in agreement that it wasn't a dog, it wasn't a fish or cat. It was either the biggest, gigantic domestic cat we've ever seen, or it was some type of like panther, some type of mountain lion. So, on that subject, right, Rhode Island specifically, mountain lions have been becoming more and more frequent in our neck of the woods in terms of sightings. So, you mentioned several trail cameras, right? In August 2017, mountain lion was caught on a Providence trail camera. Providence, one of the most urban areas of Rhode Island, the urban area of Rhode Island.
Yes.
Yeah. A
Exactly.
Providence trail camera caught a mountain lion on it. In 2022, there was a Richmond RI woman who was cited by the DEM because she was feeding wild deer on her property. And
Classic Richmond.
yeah,
Classic.
right? Classic Rhode Island petty drama. The DEM's gonna make an issue out of this.
Yeah, dude. Listen, I'm a member of the Richmond, Rhode Island community Facebook page. It is a wild ride, my friend.
Yeah.
My lovely wife and I talk about it often. It is a lot of fun, and this seems rife for any of those people feeding deer in her backyard. So what happens? She's feeding deer in her backyard, and
she's feeding deer in her backyard. The DEM cited her because it's this big drama. Local news channel WJAR 10, right, goes and interviews her about the thing, and she's just kind of talking casually about like the many wild animals that she's had on her property. And then she just kind of casually says that, oh yeah, there was this one time that a mountain lion came and jumped off a 20-foot high cliff into my yard and stalked me for about 2 minutes. Just casually admitting it like it was no big thing. Like it happens all the time. So,
Richmond.
And then on the flip side though, we were talking just a moment about giant domestic cats, right? So feral cats sometimes are a theorized explanation for some of these sightings. And, you know, domestic cats tend to be pretty small, but some can get kind of big, especially like some of the fluffier, bigger breeds like Maine Coons and stuff like that. But it's been theorized now for quite a while that as multiple generations of feral cats are being bred in the wild, right, they may be growing and gaining more adaptive traits to their environment that are more reminiscent of larger predator cats, because that's basically what they're being forced to turn into. So they might be growing to larger, increased sizes. They might be getting longer tails, smaller ears, sleeker bodies, right? From a lack of food and also eating a lot of much leaner wild game.
Right.
Yeah, right? Yep. So there's this concept of what's called feral longtails, which are photographs of what appear to be feral domestic cats of various colors and sizes, right, that have bizarrely very long tails that have that sort of big cat shape to it, that you know, famous J-shaped hooked Cape Cod style tail. And you can find pictures of these all over the internet, and it's theorized that a lot of the time when people are seeing like these alien big cats, especially in North America, they might instead be seeing these wild cats that are growing to massive sizes now. So that's a possible explanation. And I'm willing to entertain the idea that might also be what I have seen, right? But as far as, actual credible science is concerned and why this is still cryptozoology is, the official story is there are no mountain lions in New England. Mountain lions do not have black coats. And feral cats do not, there is no documented cases of them growing to large sizes, having super long tails, or, adapting traits that make them similar to predator cats. So, it's very interesting. But I guess be careful on your bike rides.
Yeah. Oh, never am I careful. That is, I think that's super interesting. I think it's also, not to like harp on the thing that I was talking about before, but humans.
Yeah.
Get off your high horse. Like, I'm sure there are plenty of things out there that we don't know about yet. There are plenty of even just subspecies. Recently, talking about the Bigfoot subreddit when we started the show, I was recently on there and someone was like, a new species of anaconda has been found. It's like, well, it's not a new species of anaconda.
Yeah.
It is a subspecies of anaconda that they're now realizing is slightly different or is different enough to quantify making it a different subspecies than the previously known about anaconda.
Yeah.
But that does not mean that all of a sudden this, basically this is a 20-foot long snake that we know they've been around, but there's different types of them, right?
Yes.
And sure, reptiles and amphibians are a little bit, any sort of cold-blooded animal we don't know as much about as we do warm-blooded animals, right? There's a lot to that.
Yeah.
But I mean, who knows? Especially if there are big old mountain lions walking over from South Dakota, right? I mean, they can walk a long way. Maybe they're only walking one direction their whole life. The wall at the border isn't sufficient enough.
Yeah.
And they've came all the way from South America. I mean, who knows? I do think it's really interesting. And I mean, we do have trail cam footage in Rhode Island of mountain lions. So for them to be like, no, the last one was killed in Massachusetts in 1896 or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like, no, I don't. Yeah, I don't know about that. There's been sightings in Connecticut also has like a lot of big forests and stuff, and it's everything is so tightly packed here, right? Like talking Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts is like saying Iowa, right?
Yeah.
And even Iowa is probably bigger than those three states are combined, I would imagine, So it might be different states, but like they don't know, the animals don't know the boundary lines. They're just walking.
Yeah, they don't care about that. Animals don't care about borders.
Yeah, they don't care.
I mean, look at the jaguar.
Yeah,
he crossed the border with no problem whatsoever.
Yeah, all those. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that's super interesting. I would love to see this cat in North Providence, and I hope from now on your parents can make sure that big cat just stays in your room while we're recording the podcast, and it can just be sort of the mascot.
Well, I borrowed it. I borrowed it from my brother. Actually, my brother is the one who sort of inherited it, so I borrowed it from him. But I'll see if he'll loan it to me every time, because a certain friend of ours said, Mitch, you need more things in the background. So I guess that's something we can add to the background.
You can add the big cat to the background.
Yeah.
Wow. Great story, Mitch. Thanks. I like that. We kept it close to home. We're going to keep it close to home with some snacks. We mentioned them earlier, some Cape Cod chips right here from Massachusetts. So I want to tell you a little bit about the history of them. We're going to do some taste testing right after the break.
What could be better than Cape Cod chips? Maybe if you ate them on a beach. Maybe if you ate them on a beach while a flock of seagulls sings peacefully. Maybe if you ate them on a beach while a flock of seagulls sings a flock of seagulls. Yeah, that might be better. Cape Cod, home of ridiculously good chips.
Hello, we are back. Cryptid Nuggets, John Stenning, Mitch DeAngelis. We were talking about a bunch of big cats sighted here in New England. Now we're going to talk about a New England classic, Cape Cod chips. We got 3 different flavors here. Cape Cod chips. They are a kettle cooked chip. So let's start. I want to just start, and we'll talk about kettle cooked potato chips really quick.
Okay.
They've been around, believe it or not, for over a century.
Really?
They have a long history in the United States, but they're originally made by Irish immigrants here in the United States in the 1800s, slicing potatoes, cook them in small batches in kettles filled with oil. So,
Hence the
you know,
name.
you imagine a witch,
Yep.
a witch sitting around a cauldron, just that, but Irish people and potatoes naturally.
That's such a perfect New England thing because of like the whole like witch thing in Salem and all that. I love it when things work out like
perfect.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And no, I think potato chips, obviously they've been around for a while. Apparently, in the early 20th century when the big potato chip boom sort of happened here in the United States. And companies started producing them on larger scales, but those were not kettle cooked chips necessarily. Those are just your standard, fried potato chip. In the 1980s was when kettle cooked chips really came to a resurgence in popularity, and then they became all these different artisanal sort of craft potato. I mean, it's a potato chip, right? Who are we kidding? It's a snack food, right? But I personally think a kettle cooked chip most of the time is better than a standard potato chip. Actually, a standard potato chip, let's say a Lay's, if you will, is far from my favorite chip.
I would absolutely agree. I like
I'm
kettle
putting
cooked.
kettle cooked in there. I'm putting tortilla, Dorito type, you know what I mean?
I love Ruffles. Ruffle chips
Ruffles.
are right up there at the top. I think my two favorites
Love
are
Ruffles,
and
love
kettle
Ridges. Yeah, I would agree. And so, kettle cooked chips today in 2024 are huge, right? I think they're just as synonymous with regular sort of potato chips and if not more popular. Now, but I do think Cape Cod was one of the first big brands, big kettle cooked brands, right? There's a lot of different ones out there now, but this obviously one is very fitting because of what we were talking about earlier. Now, Cape Cod potato chips was founded in 1980 by Steve Bernard and his father Jude. That's in Hyannis, Massachusetts. Hyannis is another town down the Cape. Steve had a background in food service and, just was like, hey, there's not that many high-quality kettle-cooked chips on the market. Let's do it. So they started a small production facility, simple recipe, according to them at least, simple recipe, potatoes, oil, and salt was the original recipe.
Yep.
And then they became popular pretty quick. I think Cape Cod chips have been around my whole life. I was born in the late 80s. They always haven't been the most popular chip, but in the past 30 years, they've become super popular.
Yeah.
And also they use, top quality non-GMO potatoes. They cook them in small batches still. And I think that first they started with sort of your standard flavor, just, salt, right? Like we talked about earlier. But we're gonna try some other flavors here. They have sea salt and vinegar, sweet mesquite barbecue. There's also a bunch of reduced fat varieties. And, they were a small company. They've since been sold a bunch now that a big corporation owns them. But I still think the chips are as good as they were when I was a kid. I mean, we talked about you like Ruffles. What's your history with kettle cooked chips? You like kettle cooked?
So I love kettle cooked. I discovered them maybe when I was 5 or 6, right? Because I actually, at the time, I only really thought of potato chips as the stereotypical wafer thinned Lay's type of chip, which I didn't really like.
The yellow bag.
Yeah. And then, my aunt, I remember, offered me a Cape Cod chip, and I was like, I don't like potato chips. And then she was like, oh, this is a different kind of chip. Try it. And, after some poking and some provoking, I finally tried it. And I have to say it was absolutely fucking delicious. It had everything I wished a potato chip would have. It had that crunch. It had that saltiness. It had, that bit of rigidity. You opened the bag and it just wasn't a bunch of crumbs. It was a nice solid thing. It was a little thicker,
Right. That's a great point. Yeah, they don't really turn into crumbs as easily. So now, most of the time in this show, we have things that you haven't necessarily had. I think, am I correct to say that you haven't had some of these other varietals?
Yeah, so that is true. So believe it or not, despite this being a local delicacy and quite a well-known one, and one that I tend to partake in. Anytime I see a bag of Cape Cod kettle cooked chips, I grab one, right? I've only ever had this flavor. In fact, until we started planning out this episode of the show, I never even knew there were other flavors.
Wow.
I never saw a bag of them.
So, yeah.
I never saw... there's also different cuts of these, too. There's like a waffle cut I didn't even know existed. So
Yep. Yeah, so this is the original made with sea salt. We got these little single serving size bag Mitch ordered for us. Pretty standard, pretty classic bag. It's very, I don't think the look of Cape Cod has really changed. They haven't really shooken it up that much over the years. I'm sure they've updated some things here and there, but the classic New England lighthouse is part of the packaging.
This looks exactly how I remember it.
We should go on a tour of their factory. We offer tours of our factory on Cape Cod.
Oh, do
Visit
they really?
CapeCodChips.com for tour hours. Yep.
Oh, wow.
It's right next to the Cape Cod Mall and the airport.
Oh, all right. Well.
But yeah, these are solid. This is definitely the flavor I've had the most. Nice and crunchy for the podcast. I will say, when I'm getting like kettle cooked chips, if I'm buying chips at the store, I'm kind of reaching for like the different ones these days. I don't know if I'm even reaching for Cape Cod.
Well, I can understand that because you've been having these all your life, right? So you're looking for something a little different now, right?
Right.
I try not
though.
to buy a ton of chips and snacky foods just because, and my parents are big chip eaters, but they like the thinner Lay's style chips or whatever. So I almost never get to really have these except when I'm out in the wild somewhere and I see a bag. I usually get like a small bag. Oftentimes when we work at Hasbro, right, and I come in from the cafeteria in the morning, there's often a bag of Cape Cod chips amongst my collection of snacks for the day, right?
Yep.
So I'll take any opportunity I can get for these. But just like eating one just now, just that hit of saltiness, that bit of a crunch, the sort of rigidity, right? It's a little thicker than like a wafer-like chip, but it's still, and just the way they curl, like this chip is like curled in on itself like 4 different ways. It's so, I just love
they have
the
a lot
texture.
of character.
Yeah.
I love them. There's a good amount of oil, not too much. Which one are we going to try next? Now, we have sweet mesquite barbecue and sea salt and vinegar.
So I think I want to try the sea salt and vinegar one first because it's closer to a flavor that I would expect for something like this.
Sure, it's probably not too much different than the ones that we just had, but it does add that vinegar. That's also a very New England palate sort of.
Yeah, salt and vinegar, very
vinegar
popular.
On fish and chips, salt and vinegar. I love a salt and vinegar chip. This one might be my favorite of the 3. I don't know if I've ever had the barbecue Cape Cod chips.
I've never had these at all. I don't even know what mesquite barbecue is.
I think it comes from mosquitoes. I think that's what it means.
Mosquito barbecue.
This is like one of the best chips. This is a great chip.
Oh wow, that's a great combo, huh? But the vinegar,
a great chip. Do you put vinegar on your French fries?
Oh yeah.
That's a very Rhode Island thing.
Is it really?
New England thing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, people do not put vinegar on their French fries everywhere.
Oh wow, I had no idea. I thought that was just a common thing that everybody did.
I think it's popular in Europe as well. But I don't think it's necessarily that common in the United States. I don't know. If you're listening or you're watching on YouTube, let us know in the freaking comments below.
Yeah.
About whether or not you like to put vinegar on your French fries. But those are really good. I'm trying not to have too many because there's so much crunching on the mic. But
well, that's all right.
really
I think it adds to the experience, But this is such a great combo. This is like the vinegar is such an appropriate level. Like it's not too strong or acidic-y, It's just got like a nice.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's got just like a nice tart sweetness to it, Yeah. So good. And like
So good.
the salt, the sea salt, just you taste it so well.
Yeah, I mean, and the bags are all very much the same. There's not really much to be spoken about the branding, I guess. Just slightly different color.
Yeah,
right?
this one's just like an aquamarine blue.
Right. And the mesquite one has like it's sort of a deeper red.
Yeah, it's red. Danger. Stay away. That's what they mean by this.
Stay away.
Caution. You're about to try something.
I don't know if I've ever had these. I like a barbecue chip. I feel like most Lay's barbecue chips are just like, that standard flat Lay's. I don't really love them. Are there many other different I'm sure there are other different barbecue flavors out there.
Well, I can think of, we had the all dressed chips, which had a honey barbecue thing going on with them, right? So these smell, like
I think
a regular
mesquite just
barbecue.
means sweet.
Oh, really?
It's just like smoked, sweet and smoky barbecue.
Oh, so it's sweet barbecue. Sounds like a song
I don't
from
know,
like
maybe-
the 70s.
So, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe mesquite is more of like a smoky sort of flavor, I think. These are good. The salt and vinegar, sea salt and vinegar is so good though.
Oh, I agree. I think that one might be my favorite of the three. But this one,
This
it's
one's
not
good,
bad.
Good seasoning on here. Some good seasoning. Sugar, salt, paprika, tomato powder, molasses, onion powder. I like how one ingredient is just spices.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. How do they get away with shit like that,
Yeah, what kind of spices?
Natural flavor.
Like-
Yeah, what kind of spices? Oh, pepper. Oh, okay, cool. Thanks.
yeah.
Yeah, these are mad good. I love them.
They are rather reminiscent of the all-dressed chips to a degree for me. It's not
Agreed.
the same exact flavor, but it has that sort of barbecue-y, honey barbecue-y taste to them, It's almost like a New England version of a Southwestern style barbecue chip.
Okay.
Because you have a little kick of the salt there too, which is nice.
Yeah, they're good. You know what would be good?
Well,
Combining these three bags together in a bowl
ooh,
and then sort of doing a roulette, if you will.
ooh, that could be fun.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm doing that. I'm doing that right after this.
Okay, cool. I might have to actually do the same, assuming that I don't just eat all three bags right now.
No, I know. I'm trying to. Yeah, I definitely want to save. I got to save some, but because I think that'd be fun to have a little mix. Maybe I'm actually. You know what? For the podcast, I'm going to take one sea salt and vinegar
Oh,
and one sweet mesquite and do those together.
ooh. I might want to join you on this journey, may I?
Of course, please. I dropped one on the floor.
Oh, well, 5-second rule.
Yeah, I'm still eating it. All right, here we go. Nice. Both of us are chewing. That's good. Great for the podcast. Wow.
Ooh, those mix together pretty
That
good.
is just like a voodoo chip.
Yeah.
That is great.
Wow, that was actually really
I'm looking
good.
forward to more of this. I'm looking forward to eating more of these off the mic. I'll tell you that much. Holy cow. Yeah, Cape Cod chips are great. I mean, I guess a lot of people probably know that. This definitely isn't the most niche thing that we've done on the show. But we thought it'd be a good idea to stay close to home and talk about some stuff that for here in southern New England, or I guess New England in general. And
Yeah.
Cape Cod chips. Cape Cod chips have sort of done the opposite of what the mountain lion population has done over the years, right?
Yeah.
Or, there was a time where the mountain lion was like everywhere and it was prevalent and it was all over New England, and now it's sort of shrunken down, and it's shrunken down so much that people can't even believe seeing a big cat here in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Cape Cod chips did the opposite. They started tiny. They started just this cute little hyannis. We're just going to stir them around in a kettle and get them cooked for you. And now they're global.
Yep.
I think they're global. I don't know. They're owned by friggin' Snyder's now.
Yeah.
The Snyder's Lance Group brought them out in 2010. And so those are two pretty big. They're at least all over the United States, I think, if not all over the world.
Yeah.
Not to be the most American-centric, thing
Yeah,
going
yeah.
on. I bet you can sort of find them outside of the United States borders. I would imagine. But yeah, they're really good. A lot of fun.
Yeah. So in terms
Great
of
stories.
of our ranking system, right? As
please,
we know, we have two different ranking systems. The first is about whether we would pay the import tax, travel to the motherland, or not at all, right?
Yep.
So, I think for this exercise, let's just pretend that we don't live in the area, right? And we live somewhere else and we're trying these, right? So, right? I think I would travel to the motherland, hands down, to get it back.
I'd travel to the motherland too.
Right? Like, hands down.
We gotta go.
Yeah.
We should go.
Yeah. We should go to the factory.
We should go to the freaking factory. It'd be fun.
And then in terms of you first,
ahead.
please. I was going to segue to the other.
No, you were going to do the tier.
Yeah. So, in terms of our other ranking system, we rank things on an alphabetical tier list with A being very high, and then the lower you go, the worse it gets, and then the special rank above A, S rank, is reserved for only the best of the best snacks, right? And we've also have now coined H rank for Haribo for the terrible dinosaur gummies, for things we would never eat again.
Dinosaur gummies.
Right?
Yes.
I think I'm going to have to put Cape Cod chips as a whole as an A rank. However, I think I'm going to have to put salt and vinegar as an S rank.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Wholeheartedly agree. The sea salt and vinegar is definitely an S tier snack. And yeah, Cape Cod is an A tier. It's an A tier brand. It's a solid thing to grab. There are a lot of freaking chip options. If you go to like a local grocery store, there's like 3 different places you can even get chips, right? There's like the organic chip section, which has like tons of chips and like low calorie popcorn, which is so damn popular these days.
Yeah.
And then there's like at least at Stop and Shop near me, which I think absolutely sucks, and I hate Stop and Shop. As a former employee of Stop and Shop, it hurts me to say I worked there for a long time. But there are
a Rhode
2
Island thing.
chip aisles. Yeah, it's a Rhode Island thing. It's Giant supermarkets, if you've heard of them. Or, there's Albertsons is also owned by same sort of group.
No, I mean it's just such a Rhode Island
like,
thing that you're a former Stop and Shop employee. I feel like that's I feel like that's a common origin story around here for a lot of people.
Yeah, I worked at Stop and Shop for a long time, and remember earlier I was talking about hating bosses. Yeah, that's one of them. That was some of the bosses that I hated was at Stop and Shop.
Oh, that's funny.
One quick tale to get us out of here. I worked at Stop and Shop, and one of the first jobs I had was generally when you start working there, you work on the front end, which is like where the cash registers are.
Yep.
And a lot of the times that means you're bagging people's groceries and you are collecting carriages out in the lot.
Yeah.
And as we sit here on a rainy day recording this episode of the podcast, one day I was outside in the rain pushing carriages, and I was out there for a long time, and like the manager was like, just stay out there, you know?
Geez.
And I came inside. A manager had switched shifts. And when the new manager came in, I was like, I really shouldn't be outside. I'm soluble in water. And they believed me.
Yeah.
And they said, you do not have to be outside and push carriages anymore since you're soluble in water. Which, if you don't know what that means that I would melt in water like salt,
in water.
or I would dissolve in water. And one of the shift managers at Stop and Shop believed me, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe, why didn't you tell us sooner? You can come inside." And I never used that trick again, but it did work. It worked that one time. It did work. Yeah.
I'm soluble in water, like the fucking Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna
or
melt
the aliens
out there.
from Signs.
Yeah. Right. So do not leave your Cape Cod chips out in the water, and keep an eye open for large animals in your backyard, especially if you're here in New England. Yeah, I love the idea. of like rogue mountain lions in the area. I think that's awesome. Give the earth back to the animals, and humans, get off your fucking high horse. Mitch, is there anything else you'd like to say before we get out of here?
No, I don't think I really have anything else to add that I haven't had added already.
Perfect.
But going for the YouTube thing we were talking about, right? If you do watch us on YouTube, and if you've lived in this area especially, and you've ever seen just a mountain lion in general, or especially if you've seen any black mountain lion, I would love to know.
Yeah.
I would love to read that comment.
Yeah, we want to know.
Yeah. So other than that, everybody have a fantastic day. This was fun. We had some fun snacks. I get to tell a very personal story. I have some others cannot explain stories for other topics that might come up. There's only been a few of them in my life, but maybe we'll strike up an opportunity for that again.
Right. I love that. I need to hear about all the haunted houses you've lived in.
Yeah.
The other day, there was like a bump. There was like a bump at my house.
Oh yeah.
And like at night.
Yeah.
And I never think it's a ghost.
Yeah.
Not a little creak in the house. I'm always just like, it's an old house and it's windy outside. Whatever.
Yeah.
And I said as a joke to my wife, like, "Oh, you think it's a ghost?" Like I said it like that, and she was like, "Don't." I thought I saw something, and I was like, "Okay."
Oh no.
So, I don't know. Maybe we'll have to have her call into the show. She obviously can't come in the room and record with me. I wouldn't have that happen.
Yeah.
But she could just,
we have to have some semblance of professionalism.
Yeah, of course, yes. All right, well, thank you so much, Mitch. That was great. Thank you for sharing that personal story. Thank you for telling me. I love big cats in New England. I think that's awesome. And hopefully, I guess, who really cares? But I don't know, it's exciting, and I think it's cool, and people should be more open-minded to fucking animals that we know that are alive.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Like, I don't know why it's so hard for people to admit that, like, there's mountain lions here.
Right. Oh, it must have been an ocelot that someone bought at a fair. Get the hell out of here. Yeah, what are you talking about?
Like, that's just such a reach compared to just being a mountain lion. Like, you're telling me someone went and stole an exotic animal from South America and brought it here instead of just an animal that used to be native here and might have returned?
Yeah,
like,
walked down. Yeah, something walked here from Canada or something.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Like, what the hell?
All right. Thank you, Mitch.
You're welcome, my man. Bye.
See you on the next episode. Bye.
Decaf left, regular right. Decaf left, regular right. It's very challenging work.